A veteran who can relate firsthand to what Joe says is the producer for the Joe Reiling Show. Now a civilian, Tim Maddox was a broadcaster for the Far East Network while in the Air Force.
I think we're a very useful service, and I think we do provide that link, and especially to the remote areas. It might not apply so much to people that are stationed like Europe and or Tokyo or in the large metropolitan areas where there's a lot to do. But to the people that are more in the remote areas, like you were in Keflavik, I believe you said, and that's pretty remote. Alaska, pretty remote. And it just links you back with reality. It brings you back home a little bit.
Radio has been, and still is, the cornerstone of this broadcasting service. But it's had to make room for a relatively new and powerful medium, television. It was in 1959 that AFRS incorporated television into its system, thus becoming the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service. The first television came to overseas military personnel in the form of kinescopes, the filming of TV programs directly off the air. AFRTS has come a long way since 1959. Some of the biggest changes have come in technology.
Better quality, going from the days of black and white television to color television to videotape, and then as you look behind us, the field of satellite technology, which has made a quantum leap in the service to the AFRTS audience overseas. We decided that we were talking to a media generation, a radio and television generation. They got most of their information from radio and TV, most of their entertainment from radio and TV. So we needed to find a way to provide real-time television.
In 1982, that real-time television became a reality on AFRTS. Today, most bases around the world receive much of their TV programming by satellite. However, before TV programs can be put on the satellite, AFRTS must first acquire them.
The process of getting the program for SatNet begins long before it gets to me, in that we first have to obtain clearance for the programs. AFRTS produces none of its own programs. All of our programs come from outside sources, the major radio television networks.
In fiscal 1987, AFRTS had a total operating budget of about $27.5 million. It's estimated, though, that if AFRTS had to pay fair market price for the program material it uses, that alone in TV would be about $120 million. So obviously, AFRTS is grateful to the industry.
The networks and the program owners have been extremely good to AFRTS over the years. They have given us many of their programs at no charge, and thus we have been able to provide the top network programming that's available in the United States.
We have been lucky in the past several years of presenting at least 90% and sometimes more than that. Not as all at one time, you understand, but during the year we get access to all those top shows and television movies.
AFRTS may get the cream of the crop of network and Hollywood television shows, but as Director of Programming, Fry knows well the #1 problem in scheduling programs for a worldwide audience.
It's hard to do when you've only got, in most areas, one channel, one television channel, one AM radio station and one FM radio station. And you can only go 24 hours a day because we haven't figured out how to stretch the day yet.
But you know, the Super Bowl will hit New Zealand at 10 in the morning and hit Germany at 3 in the morning. And it's very strange. That's why shows like The Tonight Show might show up in the morning in some areas. And we have stations in almost every one of those time zones.
Whether it be television or radio programming, timely news and information rank first. The task of keeping overseas troops abreast of national and world events has not changed in over 45 years.
Now, we do not create news. We're not a news gathering organization. We're a news disseminating organization. So the people who listen and watch AFRTS overseas probably are better informed than the average person here, who tend to get on one station and listen to it all the time.
I'm Sandy Kozel, AP Network News.
Coming into this room alone, we have Q channels and audio channels from NBC, ABC, CBS, National Public Radio, Mutual, CNN, United Press International, Associated Press, and it goes on and on. So we really have everything right at our fingertips. Now, in the event of a national or international emergency or something that's acutely important to the troops overseas. We are able to respond immediately.
Instantaneous communication with the 1.5 million servicemen and women stationed around the world is another reason the Department of Defense decided to continue the broadcast service following World War II. And just as commercial networks use airtime for advertisements, so does AFRTS. Commercials are not permitted on the system, so all advertisements are removed from radio and TV programs. In their place go information spots directed at military personnel, such as this one from the 1960s.
Hello there. I'm Don Knotts, and I set this so I'd be wide awake to tell you all about absentee voting.
Most current programming is recorded on videotape, so commercials are electronically swapped. However, with live programs, the change must also be done live.
We record the majority of our programming on cartridge tape that we run through a 6-second delay loop system. That's how we are able to decommercialize our programming.
Cher is a former Navy broadcaster who spent some of her military time in Italy learning broadcasting on the grassroots level.
We were a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour-a-day broadcasting service for all of Italy. We had to bounce from radio in the morning to television in the evening. We were responsible for our DJ shows, newscasts, sportscasts, both on radio and television.
It seems the training received by its broadcasters is as varied as the programs on AFRTS. During the past few minutes, we've looked at the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service and how it reaches out to America's troops overseas. There is another audience occasionally reached by the service, though, and their impressions of the United States are often formed by what they see and hear on AFRTS.
The appreciation of the people that the countries that we've been in. Our people have made such friends with them that Armed Forces Radio and Television is called the best ambassador the U.S. has.
Ella Fitzgerald's Mountain Greenery was the final tune for this session, and this is your platter party host, Army Sergeant Bill Rowland at AFN Berlin, saying bye-bye, bye bonds, and I'll be spinning your way again tomorrow at 17 hours Central European Time.
That's it for this week's edition of For Veterans Only. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed our feature report on the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service, a report I very much enjoyed doing, having been an AFRTS broadcaster while I was in the service. And along those lines, a very special hello to this week to those who are viewing in Keflavik, Iceland, my overseas base while I was in the Air Force. And also in closing tonight, I would like to remind all viewers who at any time have been stationed overseas and may have pictures or other memorabilia of AFRTS that the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service is beginning to compile and accumulate memorabilia, information on AFRTS for their archives. And I'm sure they would be more than happy to hear from you if you have something you would like to donate to those archives. You can contact the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service in Sun Valley, California. It's in Los Angeles County. I'm sure they would be more than happy to hear from you. So until next week, for Jim Clay, I'm Ray Keaton, and this is For Veterans Only. See you next week.
Thanks from America to all our men in blue, our boys in khaki too, our tough Marines, our Coast Guard, our Army nurses true. We thank you so much. Fellas, this doesn't rhyme, but one of these days soon we'll be seeing you. And meantime, this is Bob Hope thanking you for those letters to Command Performance, Armed Forces Radio, Los Angeles, USA. Speaking for everybody on Command Performance and saying the best of the best from the USA. So long.
She's on her way, men. From us to you, every week till it's over there.
All right, a special presentation or special report I really enjoyed doing just a few years ago when I worked for a veterans-related television program on the history, origins, and the mission of the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.